will call to order the regular board meeting of the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Marisel Hernandez. I'm the chair. Seated to my right is Commissioner Kresse, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the agenda. Are there any suggested changes? If not, we will proceed to the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of December 23rd, 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we will hear from the Executive Director, Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to my board members. Just to give you a rundown of what's going on, first of all, on last week, Friday, we were ordered to take a candidate off the ballot. We finished all the equipment at early vote, and most of it was done at the warehouse, so we had to redo all the equipment to take a candidate off the ballot. So the staff had to, they started Saturday. There was a power outage out at the warehouse. So they came down to 191, and they were able to knock out on Saturday to pre-lab all that equipment. The power is back on at the warehouse. It was out for approximately an hour and a half. We found out that there was a problem with the transformer there. The transformer has been replaced, so I feel confident that we shouldn't have that problem again. But just to let you know that to have something like that happen, the reaction to that, the staff picked up everything, grabbed everything, came down, and did the pre-let down here. The staff at the warehouse has already completed 725 pieces of equipment. This is the early vote equipment. They have pre-latted all that, so all that has been changed.
And that's
To have that done,
725 pieces out of how many?
725.
Oh.
We have roughly about 725 pieces of equipment for early vote. So they went at all that's been completed. So now we're waiting for the regular pre-lap, which hopefully it should be going well. We're starting probably tomorrow. I know that the computer room has taken care of all the computer chips, and all the test decks are in, and most of the ballots are coming in now. How many wards do we have in so far?
We have the first 10 wards completed. We're all ready for precinct pre-lap. Of our 568 ballot files, we've received 377 of those ballots already. We should have the rest by the end of the week.
And yesterday we had a meeting. We had a meeting with the Department of Corrections out at 26 in California. And just to let you know that the meeting went really well. We're all set for this. We had a discussion after the pretrial detainee, after the election next month. We're going to sit down with the Department of Corrections and actually put together a manual. A lot of election jurisdictions around the United States have asked us, what did you do, how did you put this together? So we're going to do some kind of information booklet on how we were able to get this done. It's very useful. We have a press conference on this Saturday, the 7th, to kick off our pretrial detainee voting. And it should go without here. But the staff that we have put together that's working out at the 26 in Cal is incredible. Really good. Just one other item, that we will be buying pizza for all of our staff because there's no place for them to go out and eat, so we're bringing cases of water and food in for them. So I just want to let the board know that ahead of time.
Excuse me, what days are going to be the voting out at CCJ?
The voting is March, just 2 weekends. It is the,
Saturday, March 7, and then the following weekend?
and then, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's both Saturday and Sunday, the 2 weekends prior to election.
Okay, thank you.
And in the package has where we're meeting at, and all the tiers and everything for voting. And it also has a copy of the web page that you would go for the county to get security clearance to go to the jail. So all that's in there. So it has a copy of our web page and the sheriff's web page.
So are these individuals at the county, they have not been registered yet? They will be.
No, a lot of them are registered,
good.
and they've gone in and we've had registration. And we're handling this as early vote, so it's same-day registration. So they have, everybody there has some type of ID.
Oh, good.
So they'll
Oh,
be
that's it.
registered right then and there. So nobody's gonna be turned away.
No, I
Yeah.
wount think so.
Yeah.
I
These
was
are-
hoping that it would go,
It is just like we do for early vote.
Wonderful.
Basically, that's how it's set up.
Great. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Goff?
Yeah, I have a lot, but I will send that all to my board members in an email. So there's some other things, but everything's going very well. This is the one item that I was very happy with, that the pretrial detainee, that it's working well and we're having it up and running. And that to let you know that the staff, when something goes wrong, they react and they get it done. So talk about contingency plans. We write it down, but at the Chicago board, we live it, so it's one question.
Thank you. Mr. Holliday, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. Yesterday, Jim Allen and I met with Joshua Dennis, First Deputy Director of Emergency Management and Communication, discussed backup facility planning in case of any emergency that may happen here on election day. Jim may give you a little more details on that. As of today, we have 11,283 judges trained. Of that, 4,271 are returning judges and 2,447 are new judges. Training classes for returning judges, we have left 34, new judges 26, and high school student judges 13. We currently have 2,043 election coordinators, 23 training classes remaining. The warehouse is currently receiving Democratic ballots. Warehouse, they're packing the early voting carriers to start delivery on Friday. And then Saturday, the early voting administrators will go out and set up for the beginning of early voting on Monday. Monday, March 2nd is the day that we will start delivering the election day equipment to the polling places. Polling places, they have about 69 vacancies. The investigators are reviewing reports and surveys, so by the end of the day, that number should be down to 55, and they will continue filling those vacancies. Outside of that, the remainder of the office, the other departments, they're just working to get things in better order and keep things rolling together.
If I may, how is the voting going at our current super site? And have we found any difficulties that we've addressed with the new equipment?
No, we haven't found any difficulty. It's going very well. It's very slow. It's usually around this time about the same as what we've done prior elections. Am I correct, Jim?
Right. So far, the numbers have been comparable to the 2016 primary in that we started out exactly the same number of days before Election Day that year as we did this year. And the numbers are slightly higher, but not significantly. So 190 the first day 4 years ago versus 220 the first day this time. As far as the new equipment has gone, there was one issue the first day where a voter, perhaps out of impatience, when the ballot was printing out, and because it prints on both sides, he yanked it out of the printer. So that created an issue, but they were able to resolve that. We've not had any problems with paper jams in the scanners. We've not had any kind of confusion with how to use the new equipment. It's been pretty straightforward, and the instructions are right there. We've not had any questions as far as how to scroll down on the delegates page, which you have to scroll down to see all the delegates in various Democratic ballots, depending on the congressional district, but most of them. Lastly, in the pre-setup, I was going over it with John. One of the challenges, and this is relevant because there was a report this morning out of Georgia that is starting to go viral, and it's about this very same equipment. And there are activists who are suing Georgia or bringing it before the court, saying that the large screen inhibits the privacy of the ballot, the selections of the voter, as they're making it, that they can be seen across the room. And JP and I worked out, we tested, this is the first time we're setting up this equipment in early voting. The old touch screen had a privacy screen that was right there encapsulating the screen. So it was wrapping the screen, so it was impossible for anybody other than the voter. The new ones are this very open iPad, large iPad screen, giant iPad type. And what we did is we determined that when we have two booths next to each other, if you have the screens on the inside and then the printers on the outside of that pair of booths, the two people standing next to each other cannot see each other's ballots. Secondly, the issue in Georgia that I saw from the photos was that they had the booths outward toward the aisle. We have them facing the curtain behind the voter. So unless you are walking behind the voter, in between the curtain and the voter, there's no way, the way we've arranged it, that the privacy of these selections. I'm just concerned that this question could come up here, and I want you to know that JP and I worked out a scheme, at least, especially at the super site, but I think he's aware of it for the other ward sites. And they've got experience setting up these machines so that they're not going to violate the privacy. I just want you to be aware of that.
Okay, and we will get the word out for how to configure these, so that's not a problem.
He's on it already. We determined the inset, screens in, printers out method for booths that are next to each other. So it works really well. So when we test it with different height people even, and generally speaking, if there are two people standing next to each other in adjacent booths, as long as the screens are on the inside parts of that pairing, you can't see what the other person.
And just to let you know that we're only talking about an election day in the precinct. This one unit, so, and it's faced toward the wall, so we have that.
As to the pulling the paper out while it's printing situation, whatever workaround we did with that, are all the locations for early vote going to be informed? Because I can imagine there's going to be a few more cases of that at the other locations.
It's easy to solve.
They have an employee who's going to be walking the floor to remind the voter that the printer is going to print one side, and then it's going to come out, and then it's going to pull it back in to print the second side, and to not pull it, wait till the ballot has dropped in the tray.
Okay, but we're making our people aware of this.
Yes.
This could be a problem.
This only
This-
happens.
yeah.
Right.
This seems to have been a one-off among already about 800 people who voted at the super site. Right?
As I just want to get the word out. So, thank you.
And going back to the touch screen and the privacy screens are rather high.
Yes,
So-
they're high enough that we can actually have signage inside the booth above the screen that the voter can see. So, for example, the scroll down notice we designed that to go above the screen, and is still visible. So, yeah, the screen, the privacy screens around the booth rise up about 8 inches higher than the screen itself. So
Exactly.
it's not like these are out, the screens are out at the
We have
edge.
one here
Oh.
in the office.
Yeah, and so, when I was there at the super site, I didn't think that, you know, that I was happy that the privacy screens were so high. Okay. Any other questions? Jim, is there anything else on your?
No, I had the
I think we lost track of
Yeah,
everything.
I was asking,
So the total of voters had voted early voting as of yesterday, 938 votes. And then there was 101 grace period, meaning new registrations for change of addresses. We processed 56,984 vote by mail ballot requests. 1,188 of those are uniform overseas citizen voting. And we received in the House from that 56,994, 1,162 ballots have been returned already.
And we're getting ready to drop another 6,000 because of the so we're moving really, we're ahead of schedule.
So I'm done.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Allen?
Morning, Commissioners. So last week we had our news conference for the rollout of early voting. We had a little bit of activity at Ravenswood Manor that same morning. So we had a little competition for news coverage. So we had plenty of TV cameras recording us, but not many reporters there because there were other events in addition to the governor's budget speech that day. So that's how it works some days. But in advance of that, we had all of the signage in place. We arranged to have all of that placed up. We had ads placed for the various publications in English, Spanish, Chinese, Hindi, and now Korean and Tagalog. We worked with the early voting administrators, and the warehouse and the county clerk on the staging of that. We had social media posts, and then we had eventually the event itself. And the county clerk's office was very impressed with how the site looks. Everybody really likes this site over the last one. As Lance referenced, we had the Friday removal of the candidate that required not only preparation of a multilingual notice to go inside the booths for Saturday before we were able to flip the equipment. The appellate court decision came to us about 4 p.m. on Friday. So there was no time to bring in the warehouse staff out to Clark and Lake and flip the equipment, or much less have them flip new or pre-lat new equipment out at the warehouse and stage that the next day. So we went one day with the notice. We had very few voters there Saturday. We don't think it was a problem. We had so many workers there, they were ready to warn every voter in the first ward of the situation. We updated the sample ballot database on the website, and we fielded only one media call on that as a blogger in the first ward. The jail meetings, I've been coordinating the email blasts out for those. So far they've gone really smoothly. They just changed the time yesterday to make it a lot earlier. So other than that, everybody seems to be on the same page. We've already had interviews with the Washington Post and the Sun-Times, ran an article already. So there is some interest in this program, and we anticipate other agencies are going to look at it and see how we did this and what the results were. For the mass mailing, that will hit the mail tomorrow. We secured the postage for that last week through finance. The mailroom delivered, made sure it was on the Postal Service meter. We had to suppress at the last minute 2 precincts because there was uncertainty over whether we would have one or either of those at that location. So we were able to work with the mailing house to identify all of the records. I gave them the coding from the file to zero in on the voters from those 2 precincts. So the mailing will hit tomorrow, and we'll have all of the precincts that were assigned up to 2 weeks ago. It does feature a much more heavy, not heavy, a much more clear message promoting vote by mail and the new online services that we have. Next, we had the migration of the website over this past weekend to the Azure government cloud, and it's a Microsoft platform. It went far more successfully than we could have ever imagined. So there was no interruption at any point for any of our web users in terms of being able to access general information. When they were doing queries while we were doing the transmission, we had geared up a message that we might be down for as many as 5 hours, and please return at 5 p.m. It turns out we were down for, in terms of just queries, so voters looking up their polling place or applying to vote by mail or looking up sample ballots or looking up election results from past elections, which are relying on databases. Those were down for only 45 minutes. So they were able to plan this out successfully at CPURX. A real tip of the cap to not only Jason Volma, who's the head of CPURX, but also the technician that he had on this, Matt Dennison, as well as our web content management vendor, who was also at the ready. We had a plan B and a plan C in case things went awry. We were able to go back to the old site, but all of the information that we even changed after they froze the site Friday afternoon per the schedule, all of the updates appeared seamlessly. There was no updating that we had to do afterward. And IT determined how to log into this new system. So I'm logging in already, and it's much more secure. Basically, the transmissions, anything that we're updating now is through an encryption a set of software. You have to have, it's a user permission thing. In the past, we had the safeguard of user login and password. However, anybody who had stolen those credentials or figured them out anywhere on the planet theoretically could have accessed that. We could go back and recover it, but that is not an ideal situation. This is far more secure. We're very pleased to have this in place. We'll be presenting later this week. Adam, I don't know if he's going to be able to be there. By the way, that happened since the last meeting. Adam has a third child, Willow Jean. So that's why we have Barbara Goodman here. And she's adorable, I can tell you that. You send around photos if you want to see a photo, see me after the board meeting. I'll be presenting I was going to be presenting with Adam, but it's just going to be myself and then Matt Dietrich from the State Board of Elections at the Illinois State Bar Association on Friday, and that is going to be about ballot security and cybersecurity. Yesterday we had 2 meetings, one with AT&T, and I wish I had more encouraging news. We're hoping for a follow-up with the managers of the persons that we spoke with. We were looking for more assurances and safeguards in the event of certain circumstances on Election Day. It was very unclear to what degree they would be able to try to work with us from that phone call. But after the meeting with OEMC, we got a clear indication that there are some other individuals that we may be able to contact at AT&T. The meeting with OEMC later yesterday involved more precisely planning out any necessary evacuations or shifts in locations, whether it's here or whether it's a polling place, and what kind of assistance they would be able to help us, whether it's with voters or whether it's with workers here. So with that, I'll cut it off.
Real quick, I'm very happy to hear about the shift to the .gov suffix on our website and the enhanced security with that. Are we also training our people to always be vigilant for phishing emails and things of that nature?
The IT department is still in the process of getting people's emails switched over. I'm not sure that the phishing training has really kicked in yet. I know we have some materials out there, but I'll leave that to Charles to.
I mean, so many of these breaches have started with a phishing email showing up in somebody's,
Right. We've been notified by the IT manager of these different email addresses and messages that's coming through. So the staff has been warned and
Good.
talked about the phishing acquisitions that be going on and not to open up these different
Excellent.
type of emails. And even along with that, we get phone calls as well, you know, that your ID has been breached, your iCloud has been breached, and we've been told not to answer those calls.
Good. Good. Just-
There was, wasn't the Department of Homeland Security or?
They did a test where they
Right.
sent some out to our office.
Right,
And it worked very well.
right.
They do have, I should mention, increased the software to search for phishing and suspicious emails and try to block them from even reaching the individuals. So, but as far as like enhanced training where you actually sit people down, take them through exercises, and then what they've found is that a lot of employees in any setting, often despite that training, will still be tempted to open up that email. And so it's almost like you have to take them through the training, fish them, show them what they did wrong, and then they learn, and it
Right.
becomes more concrete in terms of the educational component. But they do have software in place.
Excellent. Thank you.
And one last question, so vote by mail right now is 57,000, vote by mail applications, right? Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Including military overseas, yes.
Yeah, and so how does that compare to 2016?
On two fronts, it's changed dramatically on two fronts. It's almost exclusively online applications. We have virtually no mail-in applications. And it is more than double the total for the entire election. And we still have 2.5 weeks to go for people to apply.
And we're
And-
encouraging people to apply by the end of this month.
The mailing includes the the cutoff deadline, I'm trying to combine two things, of March the 12th, but we do encourage people to apply as soon as possible so that they have ample time to receive and be able to return their ballot. But we're very encouraged by the numbers, so even though early voting right now is the same, that's because that many people don't have their minds made up, and I think they will after Super Tuesday, when they have 14 primaries after South Carolina. But vote by mail is showing that there's intense voter interest out there relative to 4 years ago. Whether that translates into turnout or whether these are the same people who would have turned out anyway, that remains to be seen. We haven't done that data analysis yet.
And the percentage of those people who apply to vote by mail, is the approximate percentage of those people who will actually return the ballot as opposed to go waiting to vote personally?
We've seen that increase over the years, so it is typically north of 80%, but in recent elections, we've seen that up to 88%. Now that we have emails that, we've developed emails that not only help people track the process, but also give them a nudge. We have an email that if they've received the ballot after a certain number of days and we haven't received it back, we send out a reminder email saying, hey, it's getting close to the deadline, we don't have your ballot yet. If you have mailed it already, disregard this, but if you haven't, it's time to fish or cut bait.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Next, we will go into old business and infrastructure projects and changes in election administration.
Madam Chair, we've covered that. And
Yeah.
We're doing some major breakthroughs that we're working on now. So
And how about electronic poll books?
Everything is on schedule.
Great. And legislation, I don't think there's anything right now. There is no new business. Legal report, we have Barbara Goodman sitting in for Adam Lasker. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Swain and Kresse. There's been a couple of cases that have come up since, I believe, the last board meeting. There was a decision for a candidate in the 9th Ward. The decision was February 13th. I'm not sure if you were aware of it, but in any event, the board was affirmed. The candidate is on the ballot, and I believe that's the last of that case. There was no appeal taken in that particular matter. Last week, there was a case involving a candidate for the 9th, running in the state, for state rep in the 9th district. The board was affirmed in that case. The candidate is on the ballot. I happen to have been covering that case for Adam, and there was no indication at that time whether the case would be taken up, but we haven't heard anything, so I think that we can safely, well, I don't know if you can ever be safe when you assume,
Right.
but we can safely assume that that one's not going up.
How many days do they have to appeal? I don't know.
Well, if they haven't appealed already, the courts are not going to be very open to hearing it.
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
yeah. You've already heard about the first ward case. There was a candidate for countywide, a judicial candidate that was running countywide. She was removed in the appellate process and then filed a petition for leave to appeal. The petition for leave to appeal was denied. She's off the ballot, and I don't believe that we can be expecting any changes in that case. The last case is a candidate that is running involves a candidate running in the 2nd Congressional District. That was a state board case. The candidate was on the ballot. It was appealed to the circuit court. The circuit court dismissed the case for procedural or jurisdictional reasons. The appellate court reversed and remanded to the circuit court. I happen to have been the hearing officer in that case.
Wow.
So if you'd like to know more about the facts at any time, I'd be happy to share them with you. I contacted the general counsel, or the acting general counsel, for the state board yesterday, and she was not aware yet when the matter will be heard in the circuit court.
Wow.
So I think that was a little bit of a surprise to just about everybody.
Especially the state board.
Yeah, well, what's the impact on our ballots for the 2nd Congressional District?
You know, it's very unlikely that ballot will change.
Okay.
I'm just,
It may help to describe the issue at hand, page 171.
Sure. Well, so, okay, so I should start with saying that the candidate was on the ballot. I don't know if I said that already. The matter involved a purportedly missing page from the candidate's petitions, and on that basis, the objector asked that every page after that page be stricken. And
Being misnumbered.
right. And subsequent to that request, the original page was located. So there were two issues. One was whether or not there was a basis to strike the petitions for page numbering issue, and the second was whether or not there was an allegation that just about everybody involved in the case committed fraud by finding this page. That just happened to have been in the originals and not in the scanned copies. Those were the facts in a nutshell of that case.
and we know the hearing officer that heard that, and I'm very confident that it's not going to do it.
And just to make it clear, the agency that scanned those petitions was which agency? The state board.
The state board,
There you go,
correct.
not us.
Okay, right. This was a state board case. It was a hearing in front of the state board. But it does involve the 2nd Congressional, the portion of the 2nd Congressional District, so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We have no financial report today. I did not receive any requests for public comment. Is there a need for executive session today?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, and if there is none, then I think we have concluded our business for today. And is there, we are now having regular meetings every week. So is there a motion to adjourn until March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd at 9:30 a.m. when we will have a special meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.